Good day. My name is Roberta Weisbrod. I am the Executive Director of the Worldwide Ferry Safety Association, and it's my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce you to Charles R. Cushing, who is a prominent naval architecture in the United States and, in fact, globally. Charles, I hope you will let us know about your career that's been quite distinguished to date and how you got there. So, Charles, what are you doing with yourself these days and what have you been doing?
All right, Dr. Weisbrod, I want to tell you that it's a distinct pleasure to be talking to you. And I understand eventually to the students at the Pakistan Naval Engineering College, which is part of the National University of Science and Technology in Pakistan. First, I would tell you that I'm an American. I'm sitting in my offices in Lower Manhattan, 50 yards from Ground Zero, the World Trade Center. Uh, and I will be happy to give you a very brief thumbnail of my background as an introduction to the whole subject of the potential for naval architects. First, I would tell you that while I'm an American and also a citizen of Ireland, I was born here in America and attended school. I have worked throughout the world and therefore consider myself being somewhat international, having worked in 132 countries, mostly as a naval architect. And these countries have included Pakistan, I'm happy to tell you, mostly in Karachi, a couple of different projects, and throughout the Middle East, Syria, Iran, Iraq, Yemen, and Egypt, throughout Africa and South America and Asia, China, Korea, Japan. To get there, I had obviously to get an education. My education was at the United States Merchant Marine Academy at Kings Point, at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, SUNY Maritime, State of New York Maritime College, and the University of Wales at Cardiff in Wales, all of which resulted in various degrees up to my PhD. I've lectured at the World Maritime University in Malmo, Sweden, and also at WMU in Dalian, China. I've also been a visiting lecturer at MIT, Webb Institute of Naval Architecture, University of Michigan, Kings Point, and elsewhere. All of the lecturing has been, however, as guest lecturers and visiting professors, because my main profession is naval architect, and I hasten to add marine engineer. We'll talk about that in a minute. In addition to that, and I think it's very important for a naval architect and marine engineer to have, if possible, seagoing experience. And therefore, in my background, I started by going to sea on a Danish ship at age 15. And then I had a year as a cadet midshipman at Kings Point. And after that graduation, when I got my license as a deck officer on cargo and passenger ships. for 2 years. And then I started to practice naval architecture. And I would say that I have been extremely fortunate in that after a year of working in a naval architect's office, I was lucky enough to join the company that invented containerization right at the very beginning. It was my good fortune, and I would say that it gave me an opportunity as a very young engineer to get involved in this revolution in transportation. Malcolm McLean, the father of containerization, had just started the company that eventually became known as Sealand, hired me as a young naval architect, but within 7 years, I was the chief naval architect, and we created over 52 revolutionary cellular container ships. At that point, some 53 years ago, I started my own firm called R Cushing and Company, and we are naval architects here in New York City, but over the years, for 40 years, we had an office and a company in Hamburg, Germany. We had an office for 16 years in Piraeus, Greece, and an office in Madrid. And in addition to that, we have either designed or built over 250 ships around the world on all continents. And it gave me an opportunity to do a lot of work overseas and to meet with a lot of people who've become friends all over the world. Excuse me. The work that we started when we first started the company was for many ship owners. And in the beginning, Sealand and Malcolm McLean had us doing all of their container ship design and supervision of construction, including what we call the jumbo econ ships. This was really the beginning of the expansion of size of container ships. These 12 container ships were built in Korea, and at the time they were the biggest container ships afloat. So all of that is by way of background to having the opportunity to work in what has been a very exciting and interesting profession. Dr. Weisbrod,
Yes, Charles.
That's a thumbnail. That's a thumbnail of.
Yeah, Charles, can you tell us about some of the other vessels that you designed and some of the port work that you've done over the years, including your work in Karachi?
Absolutely. Obviously, container ships we've done for Sealand and a number of other companies. Hamburg Sud is one. Atlantica is another. In fact, many container ships for different countries and for different companies. But we've also designed and supervised construction of tankers, tank vessels, not only product carriers and crude carriers, but also gas carriers, LNG, We've designed quite a few refrigerated cargo ships, reefer ships, which has been interesting and gave us a chance to innovate so that you could carry cars in one direction, namely between Japan and the US, and citrus fruits and refrigerated cargoes back to the Far East. We have designed ro-ro ships. We've designed small passenger ships. We've designed, in fact, many tugs and barges too, by the way. So many different kinds of ships.
It's just sort of a little interesting to me. I know Captain Pete Johansson, who's with American Container Lines, and I remember him telling me about taking, um, cars from Japan and then bringing back grapefruit in the hold. And I thought that was a very innovative, unique idea. Now I know whose fertile brain it came from. So thank you.
Well, no, I won't take credit.
Okay.
I won't take credit. While we have done many innovative things, Del Monte, for example, banana boats and so forth, the fact is, oftentimes we've collaborated with our ship owner clients, and they have been very innovative. So sometimes you can assist these people who are very inventive and participate. So a lot of the patents that I hold are joint patents, for example, in the offshore industry, where we've designed a number of different craft for pipe layers and berry barges and delivery barges, and other types of offshore equipment. It has been working with the client that we jointly come up with some innovative ideas.
Great. And you've also done some port work.
Yeah, I would say that a naval architect, and I hasten, and I said a moment earlier, that a naval architect really should also be a marine engineer. Of course, you can be a doctor. And by the way, Dr. Weisbrod, we're both doctors here. And Dr. Riaz, for example, has invited me to give this little talk. But we're doctors, PhDs, and Doctor of Science. So I hope everybody's well today, but we're not medical doctors. I would say that as a naval architect and marine engineer, you shouldn't feel bound to only work on the design and or construction of ships. You should look at the interfaces between shipping and land transportation and other modes of transportation where you can cross-fertilize. Excuse me. I'm sorry for the interference. It's modern communication.
The joys of working. Okay.
Sorry. So one of the things that naval architects and marine engineers can do is participate at these interfaces, such as ports. In fact, these days, the port problems and problems of materials handling and inland transportation are as difficult and serious as they are in naval architecture. So this is an area of opportunity, I would say, for uh, people who are skilled in the technology of ships. The same would go, for example, in the field of containerization. There are many technologies in the handling of containers and even the containers themselves. Uh, Containers are not just simply shipping boxes, but there are containers that are refrigerated, dehumidified, and special purpose liquid containers, and so forth and so on. So there's a lot to be done in the technologies of handling these containers and the containers themselves. So in addition to designing and building ships, uh, you have these other opportunities.
Have you gotten involved in policy questions? Maybe not, but I know you did get involved in HVAC questions, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. And I believe are you a member of the ACEEE? Oh, no.
WXYZ,
No, excuse me, ASHRAE, the American, is it the American or the Society? Well, you,
American Society of Heating, Ventilation, and Air Conditioning Engineers. And this is something I would urge the students to consider as they move into their profession. You really ought to join professional societies. First and foremost, there are societies of naval architects and marine engineers, such as in the United States, the Society of Naval Architects and Marine Engineers. We call it SNAME, which has a large number of foreign members. The British in Britain, I shouldn't say the British, but in Britain, you have the Royal Institute of Naval Architects, both of which I'm a member, but also this is Japanese Society of Naval Architects, the Korean Society. There, in fact, are societies, professional societies of naval architects and marine engineers. And I really urge all of you to join these professional societies because it's a way of spreading the technology, of learning globally what new technologies there are. And it's a big help to younger members of the societies to learn about the society. They all, by the way, have codes of ethics, which is something that I'm really, really strongly on, that you become aware of what the codes of ethics are and that you follow them. I think in your ongoing profession, you know, the safety is a huge part of your work. Everything you do should be with safety in mind, and particularly your care for people. That is, passengers who may ride on your ships, particularly the crews of your ships. They're at risk, and therefore it's important. And in addition, in your code of ethics, the environment. I think that it's hugely important that what you do in your future professions is to be concerned for our environment, the air, the sea that we travel on, and all other aspects of the environment.
yes, thank you. And I would concur that not only would I recommend that students join professional societies, but they get actively engaged in them to really benefit from meeting other people and learning aspects of the profession that beyond what they learned in school. Um, I think we've covered a lot of what we wanted to cover. If you have a few more words of parting words to the students, which we will be meeting them shortly after they see this recording, and then we'll have a live Q&A. But if you have any parting words, to say to them at this moment.
Well, I do have just a couple of words. First, I'd like to talk about the prospects for naval architects in the future. You have a wonderful, wonderful future ahead of you all. And there are so many different paths that you can travel down. I would say that when you go out into the world, wherever that might be in the world, you can work for shipbuilders in the actual construction of ships. You can work for various owners and buyers of ships, whether they be companies or governments, or you can work as a consultant. As I said earlier, it's essential that you get some experience. However, seagoing experience, that's fine. If it's in the engine room or even if it's on deck, that's fine. And so you have many, many things you can be doing. It's so encouraging now in these years that the field of transportation, since transportation by ships covers 95% of the goods that actually move internationally. So that whole transport field is wide open. You can work for government vessels, that is Coast Guard, search and rescue, fisheries, and so forth. You can work on service vessels. Not all vessels are transportation. The opportunities of working in the offshore fields, whether it be the development, exploration or production, pipe laying and so forth, dredging. You can work on cable ships. Ocean mining is a new field that has not been exploited. Wind farming especially. So it's boundless, the number of opportunities facing you. So I would say those are some of the prospects. I would also, in parting, Dr. Weisbrod, like to give what I call the 10 commandments. These are Cushing's 10 commandments, right? First, education. You never stop learning. You will continue to learn, and you should follow your education right to the very end. Always put education first. Getting hands-on experience, we mentioned, ethical behavior, obtain these codes of ethical behavior and take them seriously. The next is a care for the safety, we said, and care for people, and particularly the environment. Never lose your spirit of curiosity and innovation. I would say venture into other fields and cross-fertilize where you can. I would say number 9 in these commandments are don't be afraid to volunteer. Pay back to the profession, pay back to young people, and don't always treat it as a job. It is really being a volunteer in so many different ways to enhance the profession. And finally, I would say, and I'm using the words of a high-ranking U.S. Naval Admiral who was speaking at the graduation at Texas A&M last year. When he gave his speech, his final advice to the graduates before they go into their profession is when you get up in the morning, be sure to make your bed. And you might think that's a little bit silly, but make your bed. Just be a kind person. I'm sorry for the interruption here.
Charles, I heartily concur with the 10 Commandments. In my career, I've found them very, I've been the curious and the volunteer, and learned enormously from those kinds of going outward to the world. And the Naval Architect.
Well, in fact, if I could interrupt, you are in fact internationally renowned for all of the work that you do in so many different ways in the field.
Well,
You're a model for what I'm trying to recommend here.
Well, thank you very, very much. I'm a dwarf in comparison to you, Mr. Cushing. So with that, I think we'll say goodbye. Thank you very, very much for this. I look forward to what the students have to ask you, and be well.
Well, I'm looking forward to having a chance to speak with them, and I can just wish you the same and stay well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
So I'm stopping the recording, and then I have to figure out how I stop. This is okay, recording. And now what do? I paused it. Stop recording. I hope it saves. Oh God, if we didn't recording.
Okay, I have another conference call.
I'll say goodbye. All right.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. This was great. I hope I saved.
Okay, let me know about the Q&A.
I will. Okay, take care.